Happy Tuesday and welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you guys joining me here today. Today is, April 21st, 2026. I hope you guys enjoyed 420 yesterday. If you know, you know. Good to see all of you guys here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and do all the things like please give a like to the stream. This helps me out to reach more people, to help inspire, educate, activate, and inform. So thank you so very much for that there. Also, you guys you guys can send me if you guys would like to, you guys can also subscribe to my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. Gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles. And then if you guys would like to ask me a question, you can do it through QBounty at qbounty.com/jaybefaunt. I can give video responses to your questions or respond to any or react to any videos that you find interesting as well. Now, good to see you here. Of course, there is going to be a few things that we're going to talk about. I have 4 things I'll be talking about today. One of them is going to be a special announcement. I'm going to say that for later in the stream because I like to save the good stuff towards the end. So we do have a good announcement that I do want to share with you guys. And so that'll be towards the end. But first, what things we're actually going to do is we're going to say hello to the people in the chat. And then we are going to get into our stories for today. So while we're at it, let's get into the chat right now. So first we have coming in is CBC Voter saying happy Tuesday at JB. Good to see you so much, CBC Voter. I see you out there in these streets. All right. We have Bryce coming in saying good afternoon, JB. Good afternoon, comrades. Bryce, it is always good to see you up in the chat. You are one of the regulars, one of the day ones. Thank you so very much. We have Zero coming in saying, what's the good news? What's the bad news? What's up, JB? Look, I'm going to tell you, I'll let you guys know what the good news is, but rest assured, it is some good news. And so I'm pretty happy about it. So I'll let you guys know. Just hold on to your love. Okay. Anyway, I'm not going to sing more because I don't want your ears to bleed. All right. We have Kimiko says, hi, everyone. Good to see you, Kimiko. Nice to have you here, giving out the love and solidarity. I can always appreciate that. Love and solidarity back to you as well. John Kemper coming in. Oh, with the new avatar coming in. The new profile picture. Good to see you. John Kipper coming in, peace, love, and solidarity. Good to see you in here. I am so happy to have you in here. Good to see my brother from the middle of the country coming in. We have Sean coming in and saying, celebrate my birthday trip later this weekend. Well, happy birthday to you, Sean. All right, that's so good. We are happy that you are 1 year older, that you are a little bit older, a little bit wiser. This is always a good thing. In fact, we're going to give him a cheer. Look. Yep. Shout out to you, Sean. Thank you so very much. Everybody give a happy birthday out to Sean as well in the chat. All right, guys. So I'm not going to take too much of your time because we have a lot to get into. And plus, I am trying to be responsible. I'm trying to be an adult. As much as that is stressful and takes a lot out of me, but we gotta do the adult things and make sure we are on time. So we're going to be talking about 3 different things today, as well as a special announcement. So we're going to be getting into that. So we are going to look at the thumbnail. So we have 3 things. Later in the show, we're going to be discussing Black family separation. This is something I think that you guys need to hear because this really ties in to the systemic racism that we are experiencing in this country and how it also relates to our class position. And so I know a lot of people say it's only war but class war on one side. And then you have another side that says we got to focus just on, our race, our ethnicity, our particular community in that aspect. And I have something to say to them too. And so we have to get into this Black family separation and what happened with RFK Jr. over the last few days when he was talking to Congress. But we're also going to be talking about vets arrested. This is going to be a big story having to do with the war in Iran and why were vets arrested and what's going on. There's a lot happening within our country. And so I want to get into that as well because veterans are literally speaking out. But first, we're going to be talking about a teen that was found dead in Washington, D.C. We're going to be getting into that subject right now because this subject is deeply important and there's not a lot of places or media talking about it. Let's get into this. Lynching in Washington, D.C. Months ago, President Donald Trump sent the National Guard to Washington, D.C. to fix the crime there, and they occupied the city of Washington, D.C. for about a month. He even spoke about how a 19-year-old Doge staffer named Edward Corstein, his nickname was Big Balls, and he was jumped and beat up by a couple of teenagers. In fact, just to remind you guys of this, yes, that is his nickname. And no, I'm not being facetious. I am not playing around. That was his nickname. And so if you guys remember, I actually talked about this. Trump administration staffer known as quote unquote Big Balls assaulted in DC Edward Corstein, who played a key role in the early days of DOGE, which is the Department of Government Efficiency that was headed and spearheaded by Elon Musk, was attacked while trying to stop an apparent carjacking, according to a police report. And this actually led to what happened in DC with the National Guard, with Trump basically sicking the National Guard on Washington, D.C. And the residents of Washington, D.C. said, no, we don't want that. But it's interesting juxtaposition, right? Because there's nothing but silence now about another 19-year-old that was found not beat up, but he was found dead. He was found dead by hanging from a tree near a police station in the nation's capital. Now, many people say that it was a Black teen. Authorities are saying that it was a Latino teen. We're going to get into this because I want to really dive here because as far as I know, as of this morning, as far as media, even independent media that I've seen, well, maybe a couple of outlets and independent media, but outside of me, local news, nope. National news, nope. The Trump administration, nope. Nobody covered this except for maybe a couple of independent outlets on YouTube. And so we're going to get into this right here, right now. I want to share let me share this here. So this story, I actually had to check in with a comrade that lives in DC, especially about this, to get word on the ground, because the streets be talking. But this article came out yesterday because there was actually a protest over it. It says DC community confronts police over possible lynching. Now, I want to give a shout out to Dexter's Laboratory for sharing this story with me. Let me just share their profile really quick because they tagged me and Sabby Sabs. And so But it says, black man found hung next to Washington, D.C. 4D police station. So this is the story I'm covering. And so I think this is really important that we get into this because it is very suspicious. And you know me, especially when it comes to somebody being black. And, a lot of times this happens to brown people too, because of the way our nation shares things. And they'll say, well, it was foul play. There was no foul play. We think it was just self-harm. All this, gobbledygook, as to borrow a word from them, that, there's nothing to see here, folks. So it says DC community confronts police over possible lynching. It says, on Monday, April 13th, a man was found hanging from a tree behind the 4th District Police Station in Washington, D.C. The Metropolitan Police officers unceremoniously cut him down from the tree and carted him away. Despite the alarming and suspicious nature of the case, no news station reported it, and the police made no public statement. The only sources of information were videos posted on social media by community members showing the man's body hanging from a tree as officers scrambled to stop people from filming or taking pictures. This right here is red flag number one. Well, technically, red flag number one is actually a man hanging from the tree. But technically, red flag number two is the police saying no pictures or video. Why? Was it because he was next to a police station? You found a man lynched next to a police station in the South? Yes. For some people who are not from the United States, Washington, D.C. is actually in the South, because the Macy-Dixon line, which divides the North and the South, is above Washington, D.C. So yeah, Washington, D.C. is in the South. And so you mean to tell me that, at least from what we know, a black man was discovered hanging from a tree, dead, next to a police station. And now you got the police telling us, don't film, don't take pictures. You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that weird? I find it very weird. I find it peculiar how they don't want people to see something, say something. Wasn't that what we were supposed to do? See something, say something, right? Police are there. We're like, wait a minute, this ain't right. We know, black people know, when it comes to self-harm, that's one thing that black people don't typically do. It's very rare. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but it's very rare, especially for black Americans, to do anything like that. And what just happened in Atlanta to a young man that was 21 years old that I talked about a few weeks back? And it always ends up happening. And they always seem to be under 40, but especially under 30. Especially under 30. Remember the twins? I think they were in, was it North Carolina? They were twin boys, and they were discovered. I think they were trying to go to Boston. Correct me on exactly what state it was, but they were twins, and they were both found dead. Black teens, black college students. And this keeps happening, right? And people want to talk about, well, there's nothing to it. There's just self-harm. This is the waving it away, the flippant attitude towards it is them basically saying, oh, it's not that deep. In the United States of America, it is that deep. Everything is racist because it is. When you research and find out the sources, hell, People can pick any topic that you want. There's probably a racist connotation with it. Ice cream, right? There's no racism in ice cream. Wrong. Ice cream was actually developed by a black man, and he may use vanilla. But the problem is that since black people weren't able to use vanilla because vanilla came from Madagascar and it was too expensive, black people were not allowed to have vanilla ice cream. So guess what? We created our own flavor. It's called butter pecan. Butter pecan ice cream was created by black people because we did not and we were not allowed to consume vanilla. Everything is racist, baby. Everything. Tipping culture, that comes from racism and white supremacy. It is that deep, and it's always been that deep. It's just some people don't want to do the work. And it's also part of the class issue. So let's continue on in the article, because this is wild, man. Have any of you guys heard about this yet? Please let me know in the comments. It says, as alarm grew in the black community in response to the videos of a possible lynching victim, concerned individuals began visiting and calling the police station looking for answers, including a journalist from the Washington Informer, the neighborhood commissioner, and a councilwoman of Ward 4, Janice Lewis George. The police refused to provide answers, saying that only they deemed I got to be careful with the word, self-harm, without explaining why. For 3 days, the police ignored the community and remained silent. On Thursday, April 16, the DC Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, the DCAA-RPR, was notified about what appeared to be a police lynching of a black man, though details were limited to MPD stonewalling. And so now here's the point. It says within a few hours, the DCAA-RPR took to social media and announced an emergency rally outside the 4th District Police Station to demand answers. The post immediately went viral, given the horrific nature of the case and people's desire to fight back. Within an hour of social media posts, MPD finally was forced to make a statement. In their statement, they went out of their way to point out that the victim was a 19-year-old Latino man, not a black man, in hopes of dulling the people's anger and undercutting DCAA-RPR's planned rally. Despite their attempt to divide the community, a massive crowd of black, brown, and white people showed up to the police station the next day to give them help. And so that's why they were out there. And this is why you don't know about it. Why in the world is the local news stations, why is the national news stations not picking this up, right? Why is not, all these newspapers or news outlets not picking this up? This happened in Washington, D.C. And it's ironic that Donald Trump sent the U.S. National Guard to clean up Washington, D.C., but who is it for? Was it for the people who are the residents, especially those of us who are the most disadvantaged socially and economically, right? Because DC, for a long time, has been a majority black city. It's very black, despite what people think. And so that's why I'm so curious. Like, why in the world are they doing this? So I'm gonna go to the video, and I have to be careful though, okay? Because I don't want to actually show it, but community members have took video of the police being there. So let me get this in here with y'all, okay? Because I want to make sure that this story gets shown. Now, shout out to DC Blacks for this video covering this, because it is unsung hero. We would not know this if it weren't for people like this person. So I'm not going to share the entire video, because if you guys want to watch the entire one, give them a view, run up their numbers, and I'll share the link in the chat with you guys. But I just want to cover the beginning of it. So let's go. So just to stop here, you see where the police are towards the center of the screen. So by that tree, by the tree trunk, is the body. You don't see it, thank goodness, because I wouldn't be able to show it. But there's a body there, and he's going to describe exactly what's going on. Citizen journalist here.
You can still walk right here and see it. So she didn't even do what she was supposed to do, because you can stand right here and still look towards it. You see the nigga right here?
Oh, behind the truck?
Yeah, not him right there, but he hanging from the tree. You see who the white nigga at?
Behind the truck, though, right?
Come back some more. Oh, he did back it up good enough, but the nigga,
but it's behind the truck, though.
He directly right there.
Damn.
Walk the other way, you can get it.
I did that way. Like, that's why look at you. I knew you was up here. You better not let nobody know you my people.
No, fuck that, because I'm trying to figure out how the hell y'all, the kids found them though. That's why I didn't even know why the kids were screaming. How the hell you ain't see them?
So they got the truck, but if you walked up Cracking Bars, you could see it. I should walk up Cracking Bars and come through that alley.
Oh, yeah.
They try to lock me up. If I come through the cut, they had to chase me. Like, if I go up that joint, come through the back. I used to do that today. I used to hit that joint on their ass. Yeah, the thrift store, I'm still calling that shit out. Yeah, come up. You got to come through the back way, yeah. But if I go through that cut right there, I can see it.
But that police car right there, the front might be blocking it that way.
I'm going to see.
I mean, well, everybody got that shit. Y'all wild as shit. Y'all better do it, covering up y'all needs. That's what that was.
She talking about no pictures, no videos. Fuck, I'm outside. She got me fucked up. She thought she was going to skin me with that shit. Yes.
You heard what he said? No pictures, no video. First of all, they outside. Second of all, they're on a public sidewalk. Number three, they're not interfering with any type of work that's going on by the police. They're free and clear. Their First Amendment right trumps all of them. So if they want to bring out their phones and start recording, they can do it. They're on public sidewalk in a public area. And they're also the taxpayers that pay for that police. So the people that are recording are the bosses. At least that's the way it should be seen as. But as we know, when it comes to police, even though you pay their salaries, you're not the boss. So what does that make you? Let's continue on.
The body up there hanging from a tree by the fucking police station, bro.
You see that?
Yeah, mom. I walked all the way. Oh, what's up, Slim?
Yeah, I got that shit. You know I got it. No, I got it.
Oh,
you can see him definitely real good right here.
Yeah, that's why I came right here.
Send it to you.
Here you go.
Send it again.
Good luck. Hey, cuz, I'm about to go through the alley. I'll be right back. That's some wild shit. So I used to run through these alleys when I was a kid, ducking the law. I got a trick for they dumb. I'm gonna go through the alley and come the back way. That shit wild. It's a body right there.
Yes, John. He is directly next to the police station. Directly next to the police station. He was hanged and deleted from life next to that police station. Let me ask anybody who is involved and who knows a little bit about the law. in the chat. If I go to your house and if I come inside and if I see a dead body just sprawled out on the floor, would it be unreasonable for me to, and if I don't even know you, but would it be unreasonable for me to suspect that you may be the killer? Would that be unreasonable for me? I may have been born at night, but it definitely wasn't last night. It sure wasn't last night. Next to a police station? Oh my God, I was framed. As much as violence happens from the police in this country, shall I bring up Mapping Police Violence website here? Or policescorecard.org? Should I bring up those websites and show you how violent they really are? And yet they get billions and billions of dollars of our federal dollars and our taxpayer dollars from the state and different entities in order to protect us. And yet, how many of us are harmed, hurt, mangled, murdered by them? And if you're new to the channel, welcome. And since you're new, I'm going to tell you on this channel, it's ACAB all day. Not only that, but I also am a firm believer in abolishing the police. Hi, nice to meet you. My name is James. Because things like this keep happening. And my thing is if this was a black man, why in the world would a black man, while knowing our history, by 19 years old, you know our history of lynching. And now they're saying, oh, it's Latino. Here's the thing. Number one, Latinos can be black. You never heard of Afro-Latino before? They exist, number one. Number two, sometimes people who are mixed, half black, half white, have been confused for being Latino. Trust me, I know. I got family members. So they can say, oh my goodness, it's Latino, but they could be mixed. Or they could be Latino and Black American. They could be a mix of that. We don't know. Latino is an ethnicity, not a race. You could be white Latino, you could be black Latino, you can be mestizo Latino. Mestizo means you're more like a mix. So here's the thing. I don't want to hear it about, oh, well, we got to soften the blow because of Latino. No, that's still lynching. It still is. Do we look like Boo Boo the Fool to you? And no matter what the police say, I'm taking the community side first. I'm taking their word before I take any cops. Because as quiet as it's kept, police lie all the time. They will lie to your face just to get somebody in cuffs. Just so that they can say, hey, yeah, we did a good job. Good pat on our backs, even if the person is wrong. How many people are wrongly convicted and they are still sitting in prison? Because they got the wrong guy or wrong girl or wrong person. He continues.
they gonna put the body down. He trying to go. Bro, they got homicide police over there.
So, not to belabor the point, but this is exactly what we talk about when we talk about institutional racism. I mean, they're literally right next to a police station, right? This clearly is a minority, and they were lynched. And the silence from the police until there was pressure is deafening. This is why you shouldn't trust them. Their history of violence, their history of lying, their history of abuse. Just look at how often they've even admitted to domestic abuse of their partners. Over 40% have admitted to it. 40%. Imagine how many who don't admit it. This is why community coming together is so important, because if we do not, I'm telling you right now, we're going to sit here lost and wondering, like, how did this happen? This is why I'm such an advocate for more tighter knit communities, getting to know your neighbors and building community with your neighbors. Because we can't trust these institutions, not until we change the system. We got to change locally within ourselves, man. And I hope we can find out the name of that young person. You know, my condolences to their family, to their friends. I'm sorry to the members of the neighborhood, the community who may not even have known that person, but they get secondhand trauma from seeing that. I'm sorry that you had to see that. I'm sorry you had to witness that. And this is exactly why we need to wrestle this country out of the hands of these white supremacists that continue to terrorize us day after day. All right, go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you so very much, everybody. Let's get into, let me check the Kick chat to see if we have any gifted subs. And if not, then we shall move on. Okay. We shall move on to Rumble to see if we have any Rumble rants. And then if not, then we will go to the YouTube chat. Oh, hey. Quiet there. Okay. All right. So we're good on no Rumble rants right now. Okay. Let's go into the chats here. Okay. Let me see. Is that Patmos? Patmos elevator? Patmos elevator? Or, I'm sorry. Elevator. Sorry. It said, I heard about it, but couldn't find any information about the story. I'm glad you decided to cover it. I hope more people cover this, because the problem is that the local news has not covered it yet. And the police being hush about it is suspicious, deeply suspicious. The fact that they don't want any video or pictures taken also makes me raise suspicion. And so people need to know, and the community needs to know. They literally led a march about it. And so we should know. We deserve to know, right? Yeah, it's about having the truth being told. John Kemper says, or wasn't lynched, but unalived by a cop. I think that was the first part to your question I didn't catch. But I don't know. But my thing is I don't trust the police with this. And it seems like every single time there's, particularly a black man that's found hanging from the tree, oh, there's no foul play. That's BS. I don't believe it. A non-user said, yeah, I remember that deal. Yeah. John Kemper says this was a team crime. Maybe. I don't know. It's weird, man. It's weird. Edward says, throughout history, Black Americans have been killed by the police. They cover it up. Why would I trust the cops in protecting Black citizens? Yeah. I mean, they used to hunt us down to try to bring us back to plantations. Why in the world would I trust that institution? A leopard can't change his spots. I don't trust that. Let me see. Yes, Accord Lord. I know about the Los Angeles Police Department gangs. I think I covered them before, but yeah, they have a whole gang network out there as well. Big Daddy Watching says too frequent an occurrence in the U.S. That's a part of this system. That's a part of this government. This is why, changing it means really just changing the system overall, man. And every single time we try to change it, they would kill a leader. Like, here's the thing. Everybody talks about, oh my God, we just need to vote and incrementally, like that TikTok video with that black woman that they were using the card out to try to basically tell people, don't boo vote. It's just a don't boo vote video, right? And basically saying, you guys got to stick with the Democrats. But my thing is like, stick with the Democrats, and yet look at what they're doing. Look at how they operate. And look at, remember the State of the Union address when Joe Biden was like, we're not going to defund the police. We're going to fund the police. Fund them. And you got everybody clapping their hands. They got everybody standing up, including Democrats. And we're going to do more training. Like, how are you going to train somebody who's institutionally programmed to look at Black people in a suspicious way? And not just Black people, working class and poor people in a suspicious way. But yet they look the other direction when it comes to anybody that's wealthy. How are you going to change that without completely dismantling the system? There is no reform. Reform does not work. The last time a major reform, okay, you want to know what one of the biggest reforms that ever happened was? It was the New Deal under FDR. How much have Black people benefited from the New Deal? Right. So the thing is it's like they're not going to do it for everybody. They're going to do it only for a subset of the population. And even still, the subset of the population that they quote unquote do it for is not even for them. Because if you are poor and white, guess what? The police is on your behind too. They may not profile you like they do us, which is still part of your privilege. But at the same time, they will be more likely to go after you versus if you have a whole lot of money. That system, man. Yeah, Roger says less training, more jailing. Yeah, I'm down with that. I am down for that. Roger says LBJ, Medicare, and Medicaid was transformational too. Yeah, it was. I will concede to that point. The only thing that I don't like is that we could have went further. We could have covered everybody. You know, it's better than what it was, but it still doesn't cover everybody. So, yeah. Let's get on to the next subject. But before we do, we are going to thank the patrons because, look, bills got to be paid, and they're helping out with that. So, thank you so very much to all the patrons on Patreon. Here are the tiers. We have Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, and Jaybefaunters. Then we also have Comrades, Solidarity, and JB members. And I think I already said this person, but thank you to all new members, past, present, and future. For without you guys, I would not be able to have this channel. You guys make this all possible, just like the flux capacitor does for time travel. Yes, that was a Back to the Future reference. If you know, you know. I think I messed that up. You're not supposed to say where it's from. Anyways, moving on. All right, guys. So, of course, we talked about a teen that was murdered. And now we're going to be getting into the next subject about vets being arrested. And this one is a pretty significant story I want to get into because veterans being arrested for opposing a war just shows you exactly what type of system that we actually live in. So let me make sure I have everything right here. Uh-oh, let me see. Okay. And I'm going to be, okay, it allows me to go back. Okay, perfect. And then we're going to go here. Okay. All right, so we're going to get into this story now. We're going to be in, for all of you who are approached about the war with Iran, like the veterans, just say no. Yesterday, U.S. veterans were at the state capitol rotunda to protest the illegal war with Iran, and they were arrested and detained by Capitol Police. This comes on the heels of a failed negotiations between the United States and Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and restore the normal energy trade worldwide. So I want to get into this because this was pretty big. There was a lot of veterans that were in the rotunda. It was dozens of them. Let's get into this right here. I'm not going to be able to play the whole thing because it is over almost 13 minutes. But this just shows you the extent of veterans being sick and tired of seeing others being sacrificed for the billionaire and Epstein class. So as you guys can see, you guys just saw veterans already being arrested. They completely cleared out the rotunda. They cleared it out because veterans who the United States says, oh, we got to protect the veterans. We support our troops. We support those who fight. They're our heroes, right? Our heroes. And yet they are protesting an illegal war, an aggressive war of attrition against Iran. By the way, for anybody who's watching, Iran didn't start this war. The United States and Israel did. It wasn't Iran that bombed a school full of children. It was the United States, and they did it by means of a Tomahawk missile. They bombed over 160 children in Minab, in an all-girls school. Those little girls were in the gym playing volleyball, and they were murdered by the United States. Little girls. So when they say, oh my God, we got to protect women's rights in Iran, that is BS. They don't care about women. They don't care about little girls. They actually just care about the oil that's underneath their feet. And they also want to have strategic advantage of that area because they want to be able to control the world. They also want to hit Iran because they want to damage China. And what is China's biggest crime? Seceding. Did they attack us militarily? No. But they're successful. And they're stealing our intellectual property, which they really don't have evidence for. So this is why you have many veterans that are out there that are saying that we don't want this war. Greg Stoker was part of that protest. Also, Mike Preisner was also part of that protest as well. And so I want to share that with you too. Mike Preisner was arrested. And this is from the Center on Conscience and War. They are a great resource. And I'm going to share the information for them for anybody who wants to be a conscientious objector as well. But this is Mike Preisner talking about, and he was an Iraq war veteran, and he's talking about opposing this war with Iran.
Dozens and dozens of veterans who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. We're here because we don't want service members today to make the same mistakes we made. This is a war based on lies. This is a war killing innocent people. Get out now. Exercise your right to get out now. Dozens and dozens of.
So as you guys see there, they are adamant because he said that he doesn't want the younger generation to make the same mistakes that they did. When 9/11 happened, it was the beginning of my senior year. I know I look good. I'm moisturized. But it was the beginning of my senior year. And I remember specifically after 9/11, I had one of my friends in high school. And one day I'm in the cafeteria. Yeah. And he comes through the door fully dressed in his military, formal military suit with the hat, the button-up shirt, stars and stripes and all that stuff. Because he was radicalized, and by radicalized, I mean radicalized in a negative sense, to think that, oh, well, people just hate us for our freedoms. And this is why we have to go fight. They went to war based on a lie. And it continues now. And so those of us who are, some might be baby boomers, some Gen X, some millennial, are looking at Gen Z and we're going, do not go, do not fight for these people, because they're trying to play you. They're trying to use your life to make money and resources off of. And this war is not just a war for oil. It's not just for strategic dominance. It's also a war to profit the military industrial complex, because every bullet that's shot, every bomb that's dropped, every drone that's flown makes money for these people in the Epstein class. It doesn't matter. They make money. Hell, even the people who manufacture the boots, the helmets, the uniforms, how do they keep supplying? Every single time a service member is murdered or killed in action, guess what? That's a new uniform they can manufacture. Every service member that goes to eat, guess what? The big food corporations, well, they can feed another service member that's about to go to war. Hell, even when it comes to drug manufacturers, right? Some of these guys, they can't get enough, so we need some Viagra. They make money. Yes. Go ahead. Look it up. Look it up. I dare you. Everybody's making money off of war. At the cost of what? At the cost of the lives of our precious young people. Let's get in more into this article from Common Dreams. As Trump threatens Iran, veterans arrested protesting the war machine at U.S. Capitol. Quote, continuing to help the war machine will only cause you more pain. There has never been a better time to reject those orders and join the fight that matters. And so we're going to be getting into that, because honestly, we need to sit down with our young people and tell them that we need to get out of this. And before I start, I'm going to share this number again, because this is important. If you are a young person and you are already enlisted, I'm going to share this information with you. This is from the Center on Conscience and War. And here is them. It says, over 85 years helping U.S. service members and conscientious objectors. Call for free professional counseling at 877-NO-2-WARS. 877-NO, the number 2, and the word WARS. Call that number, and you will be connected, if you would like, to conscientiously object to fighting in this war with Iran. They have already, as of right now, helped many people avoid getting into this war. If you can try to get out now. If you are thinking about joining the military, don't. Don't. Leave those military recruiters on read. Leave them on read. Or come up with an excuse that's, legit and legal. Think of something. You don't have to harm yourself. There are legal routes that you can go. But go by your conscience and figure out exactly why the U.S. is sending you into the meat grinder. Are you actually dying for freedom? And the question is, freedom from who? Because is it the Iranians' fault that you have trouble finding a job? Is it the Iranians' fault that your rent is going up? Is it the Iranians' fault that you don't have health care? Is it the Iranians' fault that you are struggling to get an education? Is it the Iranians' fault that eggs are so high? Even before this war, it was going up. Just ask yourself these questions. Is it their fault? Or is it the parasite class that wants to take more and more from you? I put the number in the chat for you guys, for anybody. And also, if you have any young people that are in the military, please share that number with them. And if you're thinking, if you have people, young people in your life that are thinking about joining the military, have them watch this video. Or not even just my video. There's many other people. Have them look at Greg Stoker, Mike Preisner, Brian McGinnis. He's running for Senate, right? Anthony Aguilar, you know. Justin Phillip, I just interviewed him. He's running for Congress. Ask them about Kit Cabello of Carlin's Media. Ask them about my homegirl, Afeni. She's also a veteran. So many people who you can talk to. And they will tell you what this U.S. war machine really is. All right, so let's get into the article. Oh, and by the way, check out the chat, because I think we have a couple veterans in the chat too. They'll tell you. They know. They'll be like, "Hey, peep gang, this is what it is." So let's get into this article. It says dozens of veterans were arrested by the U.S. Capitol Police on Monday after they occupied the Cannon House office building on Capitol Hill to protest President Donald Trump's illegal war on Iran. During the protest, which was organized by a coalition of veterans groups and demonstrators, stood in the middle of the rotunda, holding red tulips and chanting anti-war slogans. I showed you guys the video. It says one of the demonstrators arrested was Mike Preisner, executive director of the Center on Conscience and War, and a veteran of the 2003 Iraq War, who encouraged members of the U.S. military to become conscientious objectors in a statement released ahead of the demonstration. Quote, he says, "The war I was sent to senselessly claimed the lives of thousands of Americans and a million Iraqis. Like the other veterans here with me today, I have spent the last 2 decades wishing I could turn back the hands of time and refuse to go. Service members have that chance right now." Preisner then informed U.S. service members that conscientious objection is your legal right. And we have professional counselors who will fight to ensure you are approved and kept from your deployment. Tyler Romero, conscientious objector client for CCW, said that he decided to get arrested today because as someone who was a participant in the war machine that is responsible for untold suffering around the world, it is my duty to help put an end to it. Like Preisner, Romero also encouraged service members to declare themselves conscientious objectors. My advice to troops still serving is this. This is the most important historical moment of our lifetime. And what you choose to do matters. I can tell you from experience that continuing to help the war machine will only cause you more pain. There has never been a better time to reject those orders and join a fight that matters. Now, says Trump over the weekend renewed his threats to commit war crimes by bombing Iranian civilian infrastructure, including bridges and power plants, unless Iran agreed to a deal to give up its uranium enrichment capabilities and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. He said, if they don't sign the deal, then the whole country is going to get blown up. Now, this is serious. Donald Trump is crazy. You don't want that to be your commander-in-chief. Now, people will go, well, what about Biden? Same thing. What about Obama? Same thing. What about Bush? Same thing. Because they all are complicit in the deaths and suffering of millions of people. Yes, they all are. Donald Trump is just carrying on the tradition. This genocidal, bloodthirsty tradition. Your blood is the currency he uses to get shit. That yacht, that mega yacht that these Epstein class troglodytes that they get, that mega yacht will never be worth your life because your life is precious. And yet they want to trade something that is priceless for something that has a price. Because to them, you don't matter. It was never about protecting the country. It was always about protecting and cushioning their soft little lives. I'm gonna share this with you. This motherfucker's crazy. Let me share this with y'all because this is wild. Let me make sure I have this here. So I think yes, this is a Newsweek article. So let me share this with you guys. I'm telling you, he's crazy. This is out of Newsweek, guys. It says, did Trump try to use nuclear codes? No evidence to back claim. Now, this is something that people are saying, right? So there's no evidence to back this up, but the streets are talking. It says a viral claim alleging that President Donald Trump attempted to use nuclear codes during a heated Saturday night meeting on the Iran crisis is circulating across platforms despite lack of evidence. A White House spokesperson told Newsweek this claim is false and criticized circulation. Newsweek has reached out to the Pentagon for comment. The claim originates from comments made from a former CIA officer, Larry Johnson, during an April 20th appearance on Judging Freedom, a podcast and YouTube talk show hosted by former Fox News legal analyst Andrew Napolitano, Judge Napolitano. Johnson alleged that an emergency session at the White House turned confrontational when General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, reportedly stood his ground against the presidential directive. So, let's take a look.
Undeclared wars are commonplace.
I don't want to play that because I don't want to get copyright claim. So I get careful. It says, according to Johnson, the exchange was apparently quite a blow-up, resulting in General Kane allegedly refusing to facilitate the use of the so-called nuclear codes. As evidence, the podcast featured footage of Kane walking on White House grounds with his head down. Later, the episode Napolitano shows footage of the general walking outside on the White House grounds with his head down. However, Newsweek has found no independent corroboration of this exchange. While high-level meetings did take place on April 18th to discuss the expiration of the Iran ceasefire, no credible news organization or government official has verified the nuclear launch authority was ever invoked. Some Republicans also expressed skepticism about the allegation. Now, here's my thing, right? This is just a shot in the dark here. Of course, they would say, yeah, it didn't happen. But do you think that he's crazy enough to do that? I don't have evidence that he did, but I could see it. I could see it happening. And of course, if this actually happened, of course they would want to keep this under wraps. All the people that were MAGA, that called when Donald Trump threatened to wipe Iranian civilization off the map, all the people who were famous in MAGA said, oh yeah, we need to invoke the 25th Amendment. This guy is crazy. You had Candace Owens and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Hell, Alex Jones said we need to invoke the 25th Amendment. If you got Alex Jones going against you, you lost the plot. And then even Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson said, this guy is crazy. This guy is mad. And Tucker Carlson also regrets even pushing Trump. So I'm going to share this because Tucker Carlson expressed his regret. Now, some people are saying it's too late. You should have known. Look, how many people said the same thing about Obama? How many people said the same thing about Biden? They've all said, hey, we regret, right? How many people regretted voting for Barack Obama? Twice. A lot of people did. So we should be able to give some grace to people, even if we don't disagree, even if we don't agree with them on a lot of things. Let's go.
You and I and everyone else who supported him, you wrote speeches for him. I campaigned for him. I mean, we're implicated in this for sure.
Yes.
It's not enough to say, well, I changed my mind, or like, oh, this is bad, I'm out. It's like in very small ways, but in real ways, you and me and millions of people like us are the reason this is happening right now.
Yes.
So I do think it's like a moment to wrestle with our own consciences. We'll be tormented by it for a long time. I will be. And I want to say I'm sorry for misleading people. It was not intentional. That's all I'll say. But anyway, the question does present itself immediately. Like, what is this? Was this always the plan? You don't want to be a conspiracy nut, but like clearly there were signs of low character. We knew that.
Yes.
But it didn't. There are tons of people of low character who like outperform their character. It doesn't have to be
sort of the norm, actually, these days. I
right.
would say.
I've outperformed my character a lot. I don't have especially high character, right? But you try your best. But what was this? Was this always the plan?
Looking back after the last year and a half, it seems like it kind of was, and it's easy. Well, you could get really deep about it and say, what was Butler? Like, how was it that and Ryan Ruth? I mean, he was subject to 2 legitimate assassination attempts. Have we ever gotten to the bottom? I know you've talked a lot about this, but have we ever gotten to the bottom of that?
I haven't talked a lot about it. I don't know the answer, but I know that those investigations have been stymied. Fact.
Yeah, stymied from the very top, from people who actually would have the power to get to the bottom of it.
And the motive.
Feeling. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Very much. So the enormous amount of money he got from Miriam Adelson now seems suspect to a lot of people at the time. But, you know, there's a lot of money in politics. To run for president requires an enormous, I mean, Cackling Camel Toe went through $2 billion in 4 months. So,
Are you thinking what I'm thinking? We've been saying that we need to get money out of politics for how long? And this billionaire gets money from Miriam Adelson. I'm going to tell you something. If you are a conservative, I don't ever want to hear you cry about George Soros ever again without mentioning Miriam Adelson. If you mention George Soros, the next name out of your mouth better be Miriam Adelson. And the same thing if you consider yourself a liberal or a Democrat. If you say Miriam Adelson, you better say George Soros too. Those words better come out of your mouth. Because these billionaires, these oligarchs, these parasites, they own our government, not us. And my thing is, it's funny. It's like, well, we should have, you know, that was peculiar. And you voted for him? Like, what? Same thing with Democrats. Like, you guys voted for Biden and Harris, knowing that they were being backed by billionaires? You voted for Trump and Vance, knowing they were being backed by billionaires? The hand puppet of Peter Thiel named J.D. Vance. Here's Peter Thiel. Here's J.D. Vance. Yeah. That's exactly who J.D. Vance is. So you got Miriam Adelson with her hand up Trump's behind, and Peter Thiel with his hand up J.D. Vance's behind. Pause. But it's weird. And you guys don't find that suspicious at all? And it's been out in the open this entire time? And the people who said, hey, we should go in a completely different direction and get money completely out of politics, this is what you get. Play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, man. And you know why there's money in politics? I'm about to scare some of y'all. It's because of capitalism. No. Don't come inside the comments and be like, oh, well, capitalism means you buy and sell stuff. No. We're not going to do that. We're not going to confuse the definitions of commerce and capitalism. Those are two different things. Google it before you reply. Because here's the thing, right? If that is the system that you operate in, guess what's going to come first? It's going to be capital. That's what's going to come first. Meaning, even in your electoral system, money comes first. If you want to get money out of politics, that means you have to change the system from being a money first system into a people first system, or a social system, or a community type system, or you know what I'm going? Because it has to be human centered, not money centered. But yet, buying and selling. Did you know commerce still exists in other economic systems? Because they're economic systems. their economic systems. So here's the problem. I'm just like, you guys got college degrees? Well, at least the other guy I think has. I think Tucker Carlson, did he finish college? I can't remember. That doesn't matter. But my thing is like, you have all this knowledge and all this, you know so much about history, and yet you got fooled. But at the same time, so did I. I had to give them great. This is the hard part. This is the hard part. You see me work this out in real time. I also had to give them grace too, because I was at a certain point and I had to learn. But here's my thing. Now that you know, like they used to say, now I know. And then, what's his name from G.I. Joe would say, and knowing is half the battle. Now that you know, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with now that you know? Are you going to continue to steer people in a specific direction that upholds and props up the system? Or are you going to go into a different direction? I say the same thing to people like Candace Owens and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Are you going to continue to keep going that direction? Or are you going to do a switcheroo? I hope you do. The problem is in this system is some people actually understand what's going on, but then because they don't want to lose their lifestyle that they're accustomed to, they revert back. The only difference is they're already awake and they can't unsee what they saw, but now they have to pretend that there's nothing there. Let's continue.
Sure, there's an argument to be made that you get money from those who will give it to you. It's just the nature of that game. But it's still reprehensible, and it's still a big question mark. Why would someone who has obvious and demonstrated allegiance to a foreign power give Donald Trump $250 million while he's running for president? I mean, how is that defensible? It's really not. If Russia had given a PAC for Trump, if the mayor of Moscow had somehow, assembled an enormous amount of money and put it in a 501c3 for Trump's benefit, would that have been acceptable? Of course it wouldn't have been. So what does it's so basic, comes back to the money. Like, what did they get in return for that amount of investment? And it's clear.
I get it. No, I mean, of course.
Now, everybody talked about, oh my God, Russia. He's getting support from Russia. And yet, nobody was looking at Israel. Russiagate was a ploy to take the eyes off of Israel. And so you wouldn't look elsewhere. Because everybody's like, back in 2015, 2016, people were like, oh, well, this person, he got money from Russia. Because Russia was demonized. Right? Because they wanted to demonize Russia because that would make an excuse for the United States to go to war, even if it is a proxy war with Russia, so that they can actually replace whoever's in power with their own puppets so that they can actually extract more resources from Russia and also have a strategic dominance over Russia, so then they can also overtake China eventually. Right? The problem now is that because they were able to push that narrative, and a lot of people, especially Democrats, believe that narrative, that took the eyes off of Israel. And now people are like, oh my goodness, well, we got to stand with Israel. Meanwhile, the whole time, the puppeteer was people that were in the Israeli government. And I'm not just talking about Netanyahu, I'm talking about the entire Israeli government. Why? Because The United States needs Israel because the United States has Israel is the largest U.S. base in the world. It's a base. It's a base. Let's just be honest with you. It's a base. It's a military base. Anybody that's born on that base has to fight. This is why they have forced conscription. And then anybody who refuses to fight once they turn 18 years of age, well, then they're put in jail. This is why Israel is what it is. Netanyahu is not a president. Netanyahu is a general. Netanyahu's not a president. He's a general of the United States military. It's just they put a different flag on it with the Star of David. That's all it is. West Asia has a lot of resources. And so they need, because it's so far away, they can't physically move the landmass of the United States to that region. So instead, they need a landmass over there in order to oversee everybody. They already got all the Gulf states. They got them by a leash. But they got to clear out the indigenous population, just like they did on this land. They got to clear out the indigenous population. And the biggest obstacle to them is Iran. That's the biggest opposition to them. And now they need to get Iran out of the way, because once they get Iran out of the way, guess what happens? Then they own all of West Asia. And then they can move on to the rest of North Africa. They can move on to Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria. They can move up to Turkey. And then once they have enough power, then they can move on to China eventually. And then once they have China, they own the world. One world government. That's always been the capitalist goal. But that one world government is a government that is to serve a very small few. It's not to serve everybody else.
I agree with every word that you're saying. I just think, given his behavior and his demonstrated disloyalty and viciousness to previous supporters,
yes,
why wouldn't he display the same lack of loyalty to Miriam Adelson?
That's a really good question, Tucker. Because she got money. Duh. Wait, dude, it's because she got money. She has connections to some of the most powerful people on earth. Are there people more powerful than Miriam Adelson? Yes. And we hear their names and we think, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory. No, they actually, they have tons of power. And yet, that's why his loyalties to her is much stronger than his loyalty to anybody else.
I mean, that's kind of the question. The only people he's been loyal to are the neocons and his donors.
Because they're driving the war machine. This is why even last week, he said, we can't take care of daycare. We can't take care of Medicaid. And he basically confessed and said, this is a war economy. Yeah, because the parasites need it to be a war economy. How do you get rid of your inventory fast? How do you get rid of it so that you can charge people for more? Well, you have to get something that's made to be destroyed. What is made to be destroyed? Military equipment, bombs, bullets, drones, planes, ships, Humvees, tanks. Those are made to be destroyed. They're made to be exploded by IEDs. They're created for that. They're created for warfare. And every single time you take one out, guess what? Well, they have to build another one. I didn't plan on bringing this article up, but I wanted to share this because I think this is also going to be really important. I wasn't going to plan on showing this, but this is important for y'all. I want you guys to seriously know how close we are to the edge. So this is out of the Detroit Free Press. Okay. It says defense officials reportedly asked GM and Ford to help with munitions. The automakers, right? So it says I'm just going to go over the key points, right? So it says Pentagon officials have approached GM and Ford to help increase military equipment production. The request comes as wars in Ukraine and Iran have depleted the nation's military inventory. Both GM and Ford have a historic history of aiding war efforts dating back to World War I. Who in the world you think operates those Humvees, those Jeeps, those tanks? Those are General Motors and Ford engines in those things. You don't think that they're not going to use them again? This is exactly what's going on now. Trump done lost the plot. Now, because Trump done lost the plot, I'm going to share something with you guys. He lost Gen Z. And this is going to be the last point I want to make. He lost Gen Z. Shout out to Hotspot for this, because I really want to get into this with you guys. Gen Z said, hail to the na-na-na, to na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Let's get into this. I'm going to talk to Steve Kornacki. You know he means business when his sleeves are rolled up and he ain't wearing no jacket. Let's go.
Ongoing question here. We asked the basic one. Who do you sympathize more with, the Israelis or the Palestinians? The country is dead even, 50-50.
Well, this is fascinating, but historically speaking, Steve, support for Israel has actually been higher.
Yeah, this is now.
Oh, this is bad. This is bad for Israel. Half the country does not stand with them. Half. Right? And we're just talking about overall across all demographics. Right? Wait till you get to Gen Z. It shifts. It shifts. And if you are a Zionist, you would be shitting your pants right now.
Much more even than it used to be. Yeah. And there are two particular drivers of this. I think it's very interesting. One of them is partisan. Republicans, overwhelmingly on the Israeli side. Democrats, this is the big shift. Now, overwhelmingly 3-1 on the Palestinian side. And then the second piece of it, it's generational. It's age. Gen Z, that rising generation. Look at this. Across party there, 3/4 of Gen Z say they sympathize more with the Palestinians than the Israelis. That's a massive sea change. Ongoing question here.
So let me go back to this, right? Because this is important. Of course, you have to divide between Democrats and Republicans, right? But when you go to Gen Z, like he said, it is across party lines, meaning Gen Z conservatives side more with Palestinians than they do Israeli. And the same is true of Gen Z liberals, meaning that generationally, Gen Z has said hell nah to Israel. Israel has lost the war on information. They have lost the war on how they project their image and how people see them, because when you have a mobile device with a literal genocide being broadcast to you in broad daylight, guess what? Then people don't like that, because people have hearts and they don't like to see people suffer. And exactly what's been happening. And now they know who's been perpetuating that. And I'm going to tell you something now. I think it's going to be the same thing with this Iran war. You're not going to have the support for the Iran war that they think that they do. A lot of Gen Z are looking at this war and they're seeing, oh my gosh, Iran's actually supporting the Palestinians. And if it's almost 75% of Gen Z supports the Palestinians, and they're seeing that Iran is supporting the Palestinians, what math are they going to be having in their heads? So they're not going to be siding with the U.S. war machine. They're going to be siding with Iran. They're going to side with Palestinians. They're going to side with those veterans that were arrested. And a lot of them that are probably thinking about going into the military. Well, good luck. And this is exactly why they're trying to reinstall the draft. Because they said, if you won't go fight and die willingly, then they will make you do it by force. They will make you do it by force. That's why I said, if you know somebody who's already in the military that is just signed up or that's been in the military for a little while and they do not like what's going on in this war, please go ahead. I shared the number with you again, because they have the legal right to conscientiously object to this. And this is why this is so important. You know, look, I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes to this war, Gen Z, as well as those of us who are millennial, because our eyes are open, we will never be able to unsee this. And so the veterans, they got the scars, right? They got the physical, mental, and both. They got the scars from being lied to. I think what the veterans are trying to do is that they're trying to prevent the future from being just as scarred. Iraq and Afghanistan war veterans, they are ending a generational curse. And I have to give them credit for that. I have to. And yes, what has happened is weighs deeply on their conscience. And they will have to live with that. But one thing that I will definitely give them a nod and a tip of my hat to, it's not staying in that state. And they woke up. And now they're trying to prepare the new generation for something so much better. All right, go ahead and please give a like to the stream. Thank you guys so very much. We're going to be getting into our final subject in a little bit. But thank you so much. We're going to go into the chats. And so let's get into, let me check to see on the Kick side to see if we have any gifted subs there. I think we are good on the Kick side. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, let's check to see if we have any Rumble rants. All right. All right. We're good on Rumble side. All right. Let's get into the rest of the chat. And all the people who are watching who are new, nice to see you. All right, guys, let's get in here. Oh my God. I just saw something funny. I love my audience. You guys are hilarious. Let me see. All right, so we're going to start here with Sila says, we are all the product of the capitalist extract and cash in this pro-investor class governance. Yep. Thank you very much for that. Big Daddy says, real American heroes. They're saving the future from making the same mistake. I'll definitely say that. Edward says, I never want to hear from Trump how he cares about veterans when he, in fact, the government is having the cops arrest veterans protesting this horrible war. Yeah. Like, I thought you believed in free speech. I thought you believed in supporting the veterans, but they don't. And this is the thing. They lie all the time. Both parties, they lie all the time. Randy says, get your riot and revolution on. Good afternoon, comrades. Good to see you, Andy. All right. Let me see here. Holly, good to see you. Thank you very much. Holly said there was 168 girls that were killed in Manab in Iran. And Manab is in southern Iran, while Tehran is in northern Iran. Yeah. This one made me laugh. Big Daddy says, Fat Donnie prefers uneven fights and rigged games. You call him Fat Donnie. I call him Don Tragic Juan. That's what I call him. A court lord says they zip tied a lady's hands that was in a effing wheelchair. It's like, no regard. No regard. Let me see. Oh, yes. Edward says, don't forget, Muhammad Ali sacrificed his boxing career for refusing to enlist because he had no quarrels with the Viet Congs. They did nothing to him. Thank you very much for that. Absolutely. Yes. Shout out to Muhammad Ali, rest in power. But yes, he also was really a vocal anti-war activist. You know, I mean, the only fights that he engaged in were in the ring. Outside of that, you know, he didn't commit violence against people, unless it was just a competition. That was it. Outside the ring, he only fought with rhetoric to defend against, empire, which I have to give my hat off to him. Thank you very much for this. Roger, he says, JB, if you can on your next show, show Dodge versus Ford DMU that explains that the world we live in today as it pertains to shareholders is eye-opening. I'm going to take a look at that. Yeah, that'll be an interesting topic to get into. Sila says, JB, can you please provide a link to this article? Are you talking about the article for the veterans? I most certainly can. Beautiful person. All right, there you go. There's that one. And the GM and Ford, or did you mean the GM and Ford one? I'll do that too. And also the Trump wanting to do the possible, I don't know how true it is that he wanted the nuclear codes, but I'll be honest with you, I can believe he actually would want something like that. But I put those all in chat for you. Teresa said Tucker supported and condoned Trump a long time. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, dude, like you really like if you're trying to say sorry now, like, dude, you really royally stepped in it. I'm gonna be real with you. I think Tucker Carlson needs to go on an apology tour because he was touting Trump for years, not just touting Trump, but a lot of anti-black. Like Tucker Carlson need to apologize to the black community. I'm just saying he needs to apologize to the black community like crazy. And really, if we're going to be real, also the LGBTQ community. Because we're not the ones trying to go to war with Iran. We're not the ones threatening nuclear annihilation of an entire civilization. That's Fat Donnie. I'm sorry, I'm borrowing that one. I can say it because, I'm fluffy. But that's the thing, right? He did. That was a big transgression of his. And yeah, I'm sorry I voted for Bernie. I did too. I'm sorry I voted for Bernie. But it was during the primaries. But yeah. A non-user says, F Tucker, he's just a GOP goon. And that's fair. Like, I can't fault people for rejecting his apology because he really stepped in it for all those years. I can't fault him for that. And people criticized him. And he doubled down, tripled down. Let me see. Hempcar, good to see you. He says RFK Jr. made animal testing illegal, I thought. He said Fauci was using sandflies to solely eat. Oh my God, beagles' faces. They cut the vocal cords first so they didn't hear them barking. Oh my God. What the hell? Who the hell does that? Like, I don't know if that's true, but who does that? Oh my God. It's just horrible stuff that sometimes people will do in the name of research. It's crazy. All right. Thank you very much for that. And just trying to make sure I covered and got as many people as possible. Okay. And then we're going to get into the final segment, and then we'll get into the special announcement. So we're moving on. Now, of course, we talked about teen being found dead in Washington, D.C. at that tragedy. And of course, we also discussed about this, this war with Iran and how it's being rejected. This war with Iran is, being rejected by military veterans. But now we have to get into this story about RFK Jr. I do not want to talk about this man again, but we have to. Because it is really just awful. So let me share this. And excuse me while I get myself set up on this because I do not have a producer. I would love to have a producer, though. That would be great. But let me make sure I get this. And then let me see. Okay. I just want to make sure that I get everything ready because it just makes more sense that way. All right. Okay. And then And one more. All right. Okay. Let's get into this with RFK Jr. Systemic anti-blackness. Let's get into this right now. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is now under fire and being grilled. He was grilled by a congressional testimony for his opinions about Black children and mental health. Needless to say, it did not go well for him. So let's check this out. He got into a firestorm. So I want to share this, and then we will get into we'll get into the article, and then we shall get into the rest of exactly what was said. So it says, firestorm continues over HHS secretary call to reparent Black children. So it says the issue forced a removal of Black children from their homes exploded last week during congressional testimony where Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was questioned about his 2024 remarks that Black children being treated with mental health medications should be taken away from their parents and placed in new homes. You heard that right. You heard that exactly the way you were supposed to. I'm going to keep hitting this home, but RFK Jr. is a Democrat. Yes, he's part of the Trump administration, but he's a Democrat. He's been a Democrat his entire life. He's ran as a Democrat in 2024 until he realized that he couldn't win. And then he left and went independent. And then he made some deals with Trump, and Trump put him as the Health and Human Services Secretary. I've said it before and I say it again. Liberals can be racist. They can. And by the way, the Kennedy dynasty, they weren't all that to Black people either. Want to know how I know? Look, I'm going to share it with you. Go into my playlist at the last reading of Presidential Black America and the Presidents, and we'll see how John F. Kennedy, his uncle, wasn't shit either when it came to Black people. Yeah. And so that's the thing, right? A lot of people are like, oh, but John F. Kennedy, he liked us. No. We were tools. We weren't. They didn't really give that much of a damn about us either. Let's continue on. It says in the 2024 podcast, Kennedy falsely claimed that, quote, every Black kid is now just the standard put on Adderall, SSRIs, benzos, which are known to induce violence. He said the best way to deal with many of the problems of Black children is to reparent them into a community where they will have no access to technology. So I want to share the exchange between RFK Jr. and Representative Sewell. Before I do that, I want to share how it was going for him based on just something that was, it was kind of minor. So let me see. Just making sure that I get my right timestamp. We'll start here. Let me see. Okay. So let's start here. And the way she goes about it is just, she had me at first, not gonna lie. But the way she finished, I was like, oh, I didn't know she was going that direction. Let's go.
Thank you so much, Secretary Kennedy. And I just want to join in with the committee and sort of, remembering the Kennedy family. I remember being 9 years old, begging my Republican mother to vote for John Kennedy. I don't think he won in Wisconsin, but I do think that your family has made a great impact on this country. I promise to give you easy, comfortable questions if you don't yell at me and hurt my feelings and overtalk.
Okay. Before the way she's starting off, it sounds like she's just going to be softballing this. That's the way she sounds. Hold on. Hold up. This doesn't go very well for John. I'm sorry, not John. Robert. Let's continue.
I promise you. I just want to thank you for pointing out stuff like the dyes and stuff in food, and maybe even the looking at the food pyramid. I think that that's been a very helpful discussion in terms of your making America healthy again. And I'm just going to ask you a question, and I hope it's sort of outside of the scope of your service. But how does the $1.4 billion cut in WIC and the $900 billion cut in SNAP interfere with your Make America Healthy initiative? I know that departments are told they have to cut. Do you think that that will interfere?
Well, am I happy about the cuts? No, I'm not happy about the cuts.
Don't you think it will? I mean, Fruit Loops are a lot cheaper than good, healthy food.
Yeah, nobody wants to make the cuts. Russ Vogt doesn't want to make the cuts. President Trump doesn't, but we got a $39 trillion debt.
Why do we have a $39 trillion debt, Robert? Why? Robert, do you think it would be best to divert some of that money from the military budget to, I don't know, feeding kids? Like, I don't know, maybe instead of spending $1.5 trillion on our military, we could probably spend some of that money on feeding children? Why do we have to cut that? Why did we increase the military budget to $1.5 trillion? Why are we increasing the military budget for weapons of war to kill people instead of food to sustain and help people live? Robert. That's like she caught him off guard with that one.
That's costing every American child $6,600 a year.
Yeah, I get that.
Oh,
okay, so it is my time. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
And I am, I'm focusing on children here. You made a beautiful quote that I was not aware of in your testimony. You said, although children may be the victims of fate, they will not be the victims of our neglect. You claim your uncle said that. What uncle were you talking about? John F. Kennedy Jr.
President Kennedy.
President Kennedy. Although I just thought it was just classic. And so I just, when we start putting things on the chopping block and cutting stuff, I would have hoped that we would not have started with our children. And I just...
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, I am not a Democrat. I do not, support Democrats because they, leave the door open for Republicans. But as far as arguments and takedowns, this is the nicest, sweetest takedown. She's the sweetest pie, and then she's like, Well, I don't see, if we're going to cut anything, why we have to start with the kids? Like I can just see her sitting on the stoop like, baby, why we got to start with the children? Why we got to make them suffer? Nah, baby, we don't need to do that. Like, you know what I mean? Oh my gosh. Oh Lord. Let's continue.
I want to know how that statement, that attribution to President Kennedy fits in with, cutting completely Healthy Start, which is a proven program that has decreased infant and maternal mortality. I don't get it. It just contradicts that whole notion of not neglecting our children or firing 20,000 people in your department with consolidations that give technical support and help develop state plans around TANF, the Social Service Block Grant. These are the most vulnerable people and kids. I mean, even cutting $43 million out of the free diaper care sort of program. And I just...
Like, not even free diapers? They're like, oh, we got to trim the fat. Cutting out kids? So what? The U.S. can bomb little girls in Iran. So not only do you want to make the kids in Iran suffer, but you're making the ones here suffer too? Like, these are some valid questions. And this affects not just Black children, but white children in large part too. I want y'all to listen to this.
I'm just making a statement. I'm not asking a question, not confronting you, but I took all these notes while you were talking to other people, so I just had to kind of address them. I am wondering how your Make America Healthy Again program fits in with the National Database for New Hires. It's a federal database maintained by your office for the purposes of assisting child support agencies. Very sensitive information. And Section 453 says that you will only use the data. How does giving that data to ICE support your mission at HS?
It's about child support. So why does ICE need their information when it comes to child support? Like, I understand if they're like delinquent, right? But that's when they come to court and, don't they just garnish wages? But, I mean, it's like, okay, so they didn't pay enough child support. And it's like, okay, well, then put them in jail. Okay. But there's a difference between putting somebody in jail for not paying child support and then deporting them out of the country. Because what if they serve their time and then they get out and then they can start supporting their kid again? Because sometimes people fall in hard times, but it's like, I don't know. It's just wild to me. How many Americans fall into the trap of, having to go to jail for lack of child support? It's crazy.
HHS.
Well, all the things that we do in terms of data sharing comply with the law.
No, this doesn't comply with the law, specifically Section 453. I would love to see the General Counsel's memo on this, if you wouldn't mind submitting that, because
I'm happy to submit it.
Please, and let the record reflect that he will give us that letter, because it is definitely in contravention of our laws. I want to thank you for your indulgence and thank you for appearing here.
Well, thank you for
She was like, yeah, that's not in accordance with the law. But you're doing it? You agree to it? The rule of law. But, you know, you're going to go against it when it's convenient? All right, bro. Now, it doesn't go well for him because I want to share this as well. Make sure I get to this point that I really want to. So there is Congresswoman Sewell. Let me see. Let me make sure I get to her. Okay, we'll start right here. And this is going to be pretty damning.
Hey, your help in your leadership, Congressman.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you on that. Ms. Sewell.
Mr. Secretary, you've made a number of outlandish and frankly disturbing comments both before and during your tenure as Secretary of Health and Human Services. I want to draw your attention to one of those times. In a 2024 podcast interview, you suggested that Black children on ADHD medication should be reparented. You said every Black kid is now just standardly put on Adderall, SSRI, benzos, which are known to induce violence, and that those children are going to have to go somewhere to get reparented. There is a lot to unpack in that comment. I know that you've already answered several of the questions I was going to ask, and so I'm just going to rephrase them. Mr. Secretary, you've already admitted that you are not board certified physician, and you've already admitted that you did not go to medical school. Have you ever reparented or parented, I should say, a Black child?
So first of all, this is the question that I've been saying, not even a question, a statement I've been making for a while now. Why in the world do we have a Health and Human Services Secretary that has no medical background whatsoever? He's a lawyer. Would I entrust a physician to represent me in court? Doesn't that seem weird? If you wouldn't entrust a physician to be your legal counsel in court, why in the world should we have a lawyer that is head of Health and Human Services who's not a doctor, not a scientist, and yet he is running the very department that requires him to have a scientific and medical background? That doesn't seem suspicious to you? Doesn't seem weird? And then the whole thing of rehoming a Black child, as far as I know, you know, despite the overwhelming tan that rivals, you know, George Hamilton and Donald Trump, I mean, Robert F. Kennedy is white. I mean, between George Hamilton, Charlie Crist, and Donald Trump, you got burnt orange. And so my thing is like, they're white dudes, and he's talking about rehoming Black children, and yet he's not a father of a Black child. See what's wrong here? Let's see his answer. It doesn't go well for him, by the way. TLDR.
I don't even know what that phrase means, and I doubt that
yes or no answer.
I doubt that I said that phrase. No.
Absolutely.
I don't even know what that phrase means. That's a lie. That's a bold-faced lie. I'm going to show you all why in a minute.
I'm not going to answer something that I didn't say.
You absolutely said it.
Oh, I'd like to hear the recording.
So to be
Because
clear,
it doesn't
sir,
make any.
Oh, there's a recording. Oh, there's a recording. Baby. There's a recording. But we'll let him finish.
sense.
I'm
I
gonna
don't even know what
reclaim
it
my time.
means.
I don't either. That's why I'm asking.
And by the way,
so to be
of
clear, you're not a
26
doctor, you have no medical degree, and you have no formal medical training.
As
you
have-
have never
as have-
parented a
as
black
have
child.
24 of the
suggesting
26
that
HHS
government-
secretaries
Mr.
have not had
Secretary,
medical
This is my
degrees.
time. And I say to the chairman, I want to reclaim my time. So you are not a doctor, have no formal medical training, and you've never parented a black child, and yet you are suggesting that the federal government should take black children away from their families and reparent them and send them off to some wellness farm instead of providing them with evidence-based.
You're just making stuff up.
I am absolutely not making this up. Mr. Secretary, in your opinion, what factors should the federal government consider when reparenting a black child who has been on ADHD or ADD?
I don't even know what you're talking about, Congressman. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what.
She is nailing his ass to the wall. And there's receipts. That's the crazy part. And he doesn't even remember. Look, I know he played with his nose for a while, you know, when he was in his younger years. But I think that got to his memory. He had a little too much of the twinkle twinkle off of public toilet seats, and now he seems to forget.
Deficit disorder. I don't either, but you said that.
I did not say
Mr.
that.
Secretary,
Yeah, you
for
did.
black families in the United States, the issue of family separation is not new. Our nation has a long and painful history of separating black children from their families. During slavery, black children were taken from their parents and sold with no regard for their humanity. And after slavery, black families continued to face forced separations through Jim Crow laws, discriminatory policing, and child welfare systems that too often assumed that black parents were unfit. Even today, black children are removed from their homes at higher rates than white children, not because of their greater harm, but because of longstanding bias and built-in institutionalism. For you to suggest that black families are not capable of raising their own children is deeply offensive. Sir, you are the Secretary of Health and Human Services for the world's most powerful country, and your words matter. When you suggest that reparenting black children, when you sow doubt about the safety of vaccines, and when you promote unproven statements that have no basis in science, you endanger the lives of everyone across this nation. Those children have parents, and to suggest that they have to be reparented is offensive.
I never
Secretary,
suggested that.
your words matter. When those words are careless, communities pay the price. When your words are imprecise, they create confusion. And when your words are dismissive, they cause real harm. So you don't have the pleasure, because of your position, to speak first and think later. Not in this job and not
Wait a
because of
minute,
your
something I
responsibility.
supposedly said
I
in
expect,
2014.
and the American people expect, that you choose your words with sincereness and with seriousness, the seriousness that your position demands. American lives are at stake, and it's time that you start acting like it, sir.
Now, there's more. Because he said he didn't say it. And he's accused of saying it as to not just he's been accused not just by Representative Sewell, but also Summer Lee. So I want to get into this. And this is the next day. Summer Lee also does a takedown. Let's get into this.
Your agency told programs to remove a list of nearly 200 words and phrases from their funding applications, including the word Black. Do you have an idea of how we could solve the Black maternal mortality crisis if we can't say Black?
President Trump is trying to end division in this country, not so
Sorry,
division,
not
which has been
eviction.
done during the last 4 years. That's what DEI did. It divided people. It polarized.
By the way, DEI hasn't lasted 40 years. DEI was something that was recently instituted within the last few years. If he's talking about affirmative action was done over the last 40 or 50 years or so. But even then, the reason for affirmative action is because there were qualified Black people who were actually able to get those jobs, but they were barred because they were Black. And so they were given to unqualified or underqualified white people instead so that they could be able to get those jobs. And so this is exactly what it is. The people who say, oh, they're against things like DEI and affirmative action are actually against it for the flip side, for a opposite reason. They think that somebody who's unqualified, that's Black, is actually getting those jobs, when in reality, it was put in place because somebody white who was unqualified was always getting those jobs instead of Black people and brown people. But the beneficiaries of DEI and affirmative action were primarily white women. Not Black people. We weren't the main beneficiaries. No. It was people like RFK Jr.'s wife and Melania Trump. People like them. Yeah. They were the main beneficiaries. People like Ivanka. Yeah. Wasn't us. We weren't the primary beneficiaries. Anywho, I just want to put a nail in that.
People.
No. We're not talking about eviction. We're talking about healthcare.
I'm calling about DEI.
We're talking about healthcare.
Yeah.
Disparities. So what we're asking is if you attack DE&I and then we have a crisis that impacts one population over another, but you cannot direct specific spending or research or interventions to that population, how do you solve the problem?
Do you think the federal government should be paying for DEI?
I think the federal government has a vested interest in ensuring that its citizens survive childbirth.
Well, we are meeting that obligation.
We are not.
Oh,
that I can explain to you how we are.
You have
no, that's bullshit, because here's the thing: Black women have a infant mortality rate 3 times that of white women, and that is actual fact. Remember when I talked about the Black woman, and I brought up, and I even had an update where she was forced to give a C-section birth here in Florida by law? The infant mortality rate for Black women. Go ahead, Google it. I'll wait. And he said, oh, we're beating that? Roberto. ¿Qué tu problema? You are lying. You are lying. Everybody, look. How many times have we quoted the infant mortality rate, and it has been 3 times, not double, 3 times that of a white woman? It's because of institutional racism and also institutional anti-Blackness. And Robert Kennedy Jr. is perpetuating that same systemic anti-Blackness right there. Same thing. And reminder, he's a Democrat. So it doesn't matter if they're Democrat or Republican, they perpetuate the same thing. And this is why I keep talking about both parties are trash. Anti-Blackness, y'all. Here it goes.
Not done so far. But also I would say that, we can improve healthcare for everybody at the same time as helping the people who are most likely to die. That's what DE&I, well, first of all, DE&I makes sure that we have Black doctors or women doctors or that we're talking about the fact that we have a mortality rate that is not matched by any other country as what we would call developed as ours. Really quickly, in yesterday's Ways and Means Committee hearing, you denied saying that every Black kid is now just a standard put on Adderall, SSRIs, benzos, which are known to induce violence, and those kids are going to have a chance to go somewhere else and get reparented. Why did you deny saying this?
Why did I deny payment?
No, why did you deny that you said that every Black kid is now just standard put on Adderall, SSRIs, benzos, which are known as to induce violence, and that you would rehome them?
Well, it's largely true that Black kids, because it's easier to handle people, and a lot of the public.
And you're going to rehome them?
No, I never said that we should rehome them.
He is lying. I'm gonna share with y'all.
Illegal drugs. Oh. Psychiatric.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
Okay, I just wanted to know if that was him for the record. Thank you.
Thank the
I yield
gentlelady.
back.
Okay. I'm gonna share with y'all that he's lying. Let me see. Yes. So we're gonna go here first. So you guys already seen a lot of the, back and forth between him and Sewell. But we're just going to go over a little bit, and then you guys are going to see the evidence.
You suggested that Black children on ADHD medication should be reparented. You said every Black kid is now just standardly put on Adderall, SSRI, benzos, which are known to induce violence, and that those children are going to have to go somewhere to get reparented. So to be clear,
it doesn't make any sense.
I'm
I don't even know
reclaim
what
my
it
time.
means.
I don't either. That's why I'm asking.
And by the way,
so to be clear, you're not a doctor, you have no medical degree, and you have no formal medical training. You have never parented a Black child.
24 of the 26 HHS secretaries have not had medical
This is my
degrees.
time. You are not a doctor, have no formal medical training, and you've never parented a Black child, and yet you are suggesting that the federal government should take Black children away from their families and reparent them and send them off to some wellness farm instead of providing them with evidence-based.
You're just making stuff up.
I am absolutely not making this up.
Psychiatric drugs, which every Black kid is now just standard put on Adderall, SSRIs, benzos, which are known to induce violence. And those kids are going to have a chance to go somewhere and get reparented.
In a 2024 podcast interview, you suggested that Black children.
So that was a lie. See how they operate? Right? See the institutional anti-Blackness? Right? They need to be reparented. It's funny because the reason why I see this is because nobody ever talks about white kids being reparented generally in that way. Let's just go in just a quick Google search, shall we? Let's just take a look. Rate of kids on Adderall by race. Now, this is from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. It says white children are generally more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD and prescribed stimulant medications such as Adderall compared to Black, Hispanic, and Asian children. Despite similar rates of symptoms across groups, studies show disparities in treatment with white children often having higher rates of medication use, while minority children, particularly in lower income brackets, are less likely to receive medication. Are we talking about rehoming white children? Is Seth and Amy going to get rehomed? Are you talking about taking them out of their homes? No? Why? They're the ones who get most of the medication, being put on most of these medications. I thought you're concerned about the kids. Let's go with SSRIs. Let's go. Hang on. SSRIs. Rate of kids on SSRI by race. White children in the U.S. have the highest rates of SSRI antidepressant use. Some depressed kids out there, with studies showing significantly lower usage among minority groups. Data indicates that non-Hispanic white youth are more likely to receive mental health treatment and medications compared to Hispanic and non-Hispanic Black children. That's from Sage Journals. Right? It's from the Journal of Child and Adolescent Psychopharmacology. Interesting, right? Let's do one more. 3 times the charm. Let's just take a look at the rate of benzos. The kids on benzos by race. It says white children and adolescents are significantly more likely to be prescribed benzodiazepines compared to other racial groups in the U.S. Studies show approximately 6.5% of white patients receive benzodiazepines compared to 3.8% for multiracial, 2.7% for Black, less than half of for Black, and 2% for Asian patients, with lower income patients also seeing fewer prescriptions. This is from ScienceDirect.com. Also, it talks about racial disparities in benzodiazepine prescriptions, basically from the National Institutes of Health, from the government, which he's a part of. So if we're going to talk about people who are prescribed these medications the most, it would be people like maybe his, if he has grandkids and his grandkids, his great nieces and nephews. It'd be people like them. So if Black children should be rehomed for being on these medications, then we also should have the same thing for white children, should also be rehomed for these medications as well. But he didn't say that. Systemic anti-Blackness. This is why we need to focus on systems, not people. Systems need to be dismantled. This particular overarching system must be dismantled. And every single time when he opens his mouth, he says something stupid because he has no medical training. He does not hold a medical degree. He does not have a medical background. He is a lawyer. Now, if you wanted to make RFK Jr. the Attorney General, okay. You wanted to make him a Solicitor General, okay, fine. You wanted to give him that type of job. You wanted to make him the Undersecretary, the Deputy Attorney General, fine. But to put him as head of Health and Human Services was the dumbest and foolish move I have ever seen. But it was all because it was a political move for Donald Trump to win. That's all it was for. He is not qualified for the job. He never was. And some people fell for him because he talked about the jab like crazy after the pandemic. And because so many people felt, well, he must understand a lot because he talked about the jab at length. And there may be some things that he said that were true. There may be some. Okay. But he's still not a doctor. He's still not a scientist. And so now he thinks that Black children should be rehomed. Basically, he thinks Black children should be taken away from their parents and put in foster care. Let's not sanitize this. Let's give it straight, no chaser. He thinks that black children should be taken away from their parents and put into foster care, even if the kids are doing okay because they're on these medications. I tell you, and it remind you, this is the same country that will rip a black child out of their parents' arms because they are living in poverty. And then they will put that same child in a foster home. And then the money that could have helped out the birth parents of that child, instead they give thousands of dollars to the foster parent to take care of that child, when they could have just kept the child at home with their actual parents. Because if there's no history of neglect or abuse, it's just financial and economic, then how do you fix the economics? But they don't want to do it because they have no regard for us. So this is both identity-based and class-based together. And until we actually get rid of this system, you're not going to get rid of racism and anti-blackness by completely changing the system, but you can make it easier to get rid of by changing the system. It won't be as much of a struggle. What would you rather do? If you have a pot or pan that's soaked, that has caked on, burnt on food, would you rather just soak it in water, or soak it in water that has some dish soap in it to really soften and loosen things up? Now, you're not going to be able to get it completely clean just having it soak, but at least it's easier to get the residue off once it's soaked in hot soapy water. I'd rather vouch for the hot soapy water rather than just taking a spatula and like scraping it off. I'd rather make the job easier to get rid of anti-blackness. That's why capitalism will keep this anti-blackness in place rather than loosen it up. And recognize and know that RFK Jr., he's just as anti-black as the rest of the administration. All right, everybody, go ahead and like the stream. Thank you so very much. I was going to touch on something else, but due to the sake of time, I had to stop. But yeah, RFK Jr., his loyalty is so much to Trump and to keeping the system in place. He doesn't actually care about changing the system. And the system is one of the reasons why we have the pharmaceutical system the way it is. It's the one reason why, we have the food quality is the way it is. It's because of the system that we have, because they need to make more profit and people be damned. That's the reason why. All right, so let's get into the comments and the chat, and then we shall head on out. Let me check. Yeah, plus I got to do my special announcement. Go into Kick. See if we have any. All right, we're good on Kick. Okay, let's go into see if we have any Rumble rants. Looks like we do not have Rumble rants right now, so we're good there. All right. And let's get into the rest of the chizat. Let me see. Cobra Commander says guy eats roadkill. I shouldn't have to add any other info. The guy eats roadkill. My work is done here. Look, Ma, I'm roadkill. Ha ha ha. Anybody seen The Mask? You guys know what I'm talking about. My goodness. Let me see. Hempcar says they claim Russia did that. Also, the book Without Your Consent lists a bunch of army whistleblowers they sent to psych wards. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that. Yeah. Sela says upper middle class and wealthy white women. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. That's the way the fig Newton crumbles. Teresa, you hit the nail on the head. I'm gonna tell you why. Teresa said there were a lot of white kids on Adderall selling it too. Yep, especially in college. It was the white kids that were literally selling Adderall in college so that they can focus more when they couldn't study. Mm-hmm. Yep, they were selling Adderall on a street corner. It might as well have been a street corner, just so that students in college can focus and study more. So when you needed some downtime, you got some of the Jolly Green Giant, and when you needed some time to really focus on your studies, then pop an Adderall. And then on the weekends, when you want to be carefree, then there's the alcohol. Yep. Big Daddy says the RFK Jr. They're not sending their best, or are they? Oh, I see you. That was funny. Thank you for that. Yep. Hemcar says Amazon talking about using wearables next. Wearable what? Wait, what? Hemcar says Nokia CEO said the next phones are going to be under the skin. Then the person interviewing him mentions wearables. What? Oh my gosh. Bryce Smith said, God damn. You guys are funny. Big Daddy says this guy knows his drugs. Of course, RFK Jr. No. And Joe Rogan was just at the White House, and now Donald Trump is now thinking about, doing more research on psychedelics. Oh, RFK Jr. can tell you about some psychedelics. Probably tell you about that one time where he was actually sweating it out with a bunch of Native Americans and taking some ayahuasca. He'll probably come up with some crazy story like that. Oh my God. I mean, if you want to say one thing that we do use a lot of, it's probably just some tussin. That's probably it. Oh my God. Mary Ploppin says white libs love to put their kids on meds. Damn, Mary. Dang. Teresa says he is racist. Oh my gosh. You guys are coming for him. Cowboy Kitty says racist raccoon rocket wrecker. Oh my God. Try to stand that 3 times fast. Edward says RFK wrote this book called The Real Fauci, criticizing the jabs and Fauci, which rightfully so. However, he's not a doctor and suggesting that blacks get parented without knowing the facts. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Yes, and this is also true. Teresa says, what about the hurt that could cause black parents? It could be devastating. Yeah. Kill your Grigors. Good to see you. All right. Let me see. Trying to get to the people who I haven't got to say anything to yet. Daniel just said LOL. All right, Cowboy Kitty. Okay, so one more thing. So I just want to let you guys know the good news. Let me make sure I have this here. All right, so I wish I had a drum roll sound here. It's okay. But I do have a special announcement to make. So as many of you guys know, last year, I got my kidney transplant. It's been over a year now. It was a year. Gosh. 13 days ago? I'm sorry, not 13 days ago. 9 days ago. My bad. It was my year anniversary. And so because now basically a better quality of life, that means that it is advantageous for me to get a job. And so I finally got a job. And so I'm happy about it because I needed this. Financially, I needed this. And I'm just going to let you guys know. I'm like, the channel's not going anywhere. The Kind Connections podcast is not going anywhere. It's just the amount of time that I had for connecting with people for interviews, the time I had with being very open, that's no longer here. I'm gonna be real. So I used to have like open availability for a lot, basically almost everything. Now I don't. And so I'm gonna have to be more picky and choosy with, times and things like that. But for right now, I am going to be working. I'm not going to tell people where I work because that's a whole hassle that I don't feel like having to deal with. But getting set up and get going is a bit of a task. And one of the things that is, is getting my bearings is transportation, and also I'm getting slowly but surely going to be getting my uniform because I'm able to get part of the uniform from the job, but there's other parts of the uniform that I have to get that I just don't have the funds for. So if you guys want to become a patron on Patreon, join memberships, super chats, that helps. But yes, I will be working. It is nothing fancy. I'm being real with y'all. Anybody who knows me knows it's not fancy at all. But I also will be on the ground as a worker while doing this. And I just want to thank everybody for being there for me, for the well wishes and the love. And it's been quite a year. I feel like I'm much better placed than I was before, and things are improving for me. And there's a lot that is going to be on the horizon that I'm unsure of. And a lot of these things are, I'm gonna be real with you. Most of the stuff that I'm like unsure of is mostly financial. I'm gonna be real with you. Because it is tough because of the system that we live in. And when you're trying to keep your head above water, any social safety net that you have, once you start to get, climb that ladder a little bit, then that safety net gets cut off. And then once it gets cut off, or that booster gets cut off, you fall back down. And so that's one of the difficult parts of being in this space. And people can tell me, well, JB, you should just go to school and get a degree. People with degrees are having hard times getting jobs too. Right? And if I get a degree in something that's popular, by the time I graduate, it's no longer popular. So, and the thing I'm good at the most is this. So, I actually do, I would love to make this full time one day, but it's not in the cards for me, or at least right now. But I'm going to try to continue to keep doing the best I can. And I already, started my orientation, things like that. So it's not like I got hired and I'm just announcing it. No, I've already started like working. So yeah, that's the great news. And real talk, like most people who are on YouTube, they have jobs. Like there's not that big of a population of people who are on YouTube that live just off of YouTube alone. And so so I'm not in a minority there. But yes, I live in the 9th most expensive state in the United States. And it is going to be rough for a little bit, but I'm going to keep trying to do the best I can. I'm going to try to have some more guests so that, we can have more conversations. And also tomorrow, the Kind Connections podcast, I do have a new episode coming out at 11 a.m. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, so that's the good news. And I appreciate you guys for, sticking with me for that. Yeah. Let me see. And so, yeah, thank you so much to everybody. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys. Here we go. So, with that being said, go ahead and give a like stream on your way out. And if you haven't subscribed, why not? What's holding you back? Is there something wrong? Is it me? I hope not. I hope not. But I want to wish you guys well and all your endeavors. And there's a lot going on in this world. And please continue to do what you can for your community. Hold your loved ones close. Make some new friends. Those of us who are over 40, make new friends. I know some of us don't, want to, we don't have time. But when you start doing work for your community, you automatically make some new friends. And it's cool. You get to meet new people. And you get to grow your circle in that. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. It says, congratulations, JB. Hope you have great success. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate that. So, yeah. I'm going to head on out, everybody. But water your plants. Water yourselves. I know I did. Now I got to go. Leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them. And please make sure to focus on the most disenfranchised among us and let them know that they're not alone. Let them know that not only that you care, but do what you can to support them. And don't forget, kindness starts with being kind to yourself. Don't be so negative and say things about yourself to yourself. You end up destroying yourself. It's self-destructive, okay? I love you for being you. You guys take care, all right? And one more thing, forehead kisses. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here.